I think there's no better way to do that than to run the simulation. Wow. 50mm lens really works wonders when it's about 1.5 feet from your face. All right, guys, I did a little digging, tried to see if I could start my own planet to demonstrate this. Turns out it's not in the budget of Miniminuteman Inc. To do something like that. Got in touch with the big man upstairs. Turns out it's actually Xenu. And I know, I was surprised by that as well. He wasn't pleased that it took me seeing it to believe it, so no planet from him. I am now, however, a Scientologist, so maybe I will get a planet later. In light of not being able to actually become a god, I will have to digitally become a god, which is really the next best thing and a lot less paperwork. I could just explain the geologic processes that are happening here, but I'm a visual learner. I'm sure many of you are visual learners, even though, let's be honest, you're not actually watching this video. You're probably playing a video game or are asleep right now. Oh, don't start looking at me now, okay? I caught you red-handed. So I wanna actually like simulate how this geologic process happens, and I think the best way to do that is with my newest favoritist game, Terra Firma 2. I guess there was a Terra Firma 1, don't know what became of that, I'm a fake fan. It's a really awesome sandbox Earth sim game that came out pretty recently, and I've already put 172 hours into it since December, so take that for what you will. Boom, look at that, it's a little planet. So you got all these brushes down here, you got dirt, igneous rock, sedimentary rock, water, ice, lava, of course, gotta love it. And it's an Earth sim, so, you know, water erodes things, turns stone into soil, mountains get worn down, glaciers wear things down, lakes fill in. It's really, really cool. You can adjust how much it rains, you can adjust the temperature. They also just added natural disasters, which are kind of fun. You can make volcanoes. You can specify if you want more mafic or felsic lava, how long the volcano is active for, and even what size the caldera is when it collapses. There's even earthquakes now where you can customize the like strike and slip of the fault line. Do you guys see how I spent 170 hours in this game? Yeah, obviously. And then down here you can customize, you know, how fast everything goes. Look, we can go really fast and you can literally just watch everything erode in real time. How cool is that? Well, not real time. Quite not real time. This is simulating about 1,000 years every second. So I could go on and on about this game. I love it. I think it's fucking awesome. I've even gotten in touch with the game dev, Gareth, who's super cool dude. I got all kinds of suggestions for this, but I don't want to overwhelm him. But either way, I think his game is awesome and you should check it out. This is not a sponsorship. This is me just genuinely liking this game and wanting to support someone that worked very hard on something like this because I think that it is cool. So anyway, let's start a new world to demonstrate how these pyramids work. All right, we'll go to sandbox here. This is fun. You get to do a little, they have like a little tectonic plate simulation here to start your sandbox world. So you can do this. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see if we can get something a little more interesting. How about that? That's pretty nice. I'll take it. And there we are. Wow. What a magnificent place. All right, so we got igneous rock with a layer of soil on top here. Some nice little, geologic folds already. But I can already hear some arguments of like, this isn't good because you're already starting with ridges, so, you know, fake news. So we're gonna build some other more natural terrain as well, and we'll run the simulation on both. Okay, we don't need this much deep ocean. This is not a deep ocean simulation, so we can fill that in. Boom, give ourselves a little terrain over here. Maybe a little plateau over here just for shits and gigs. And now, let's make some little hills. We got a little channel here for water or ice to flow down, potentially. Over here, we'll do some larger round hills. Oh, Jesus. There we go, nice. Couple more over here. I feel like that's a pretty good little map we got going there. We got kind of a flat terrain going on over here, and we have these more natural kind of rolling igneous hills over here. We got some steep stuff to sort of see how that reacts. And all in all, I feel like this is pretty nice. I'm not gonna refine it too much more. It's nature, so it's supposed to be a little bit random. So for my next trick, I will plunge the world into an ice age. We're gonna do this by altering the temperature in the different quadrants of the map individually. So up in the northwest, we're gonna go nice and cold. It's also at elevation, so it'll be very cold up there. Over on the other side, we'll probably have it be around there as well. Down in the southwest, I honestly may make this a little bit warmer in hopes that we can maybe get some ice-free springs and summers. And then over in the southeast, that's also at a very high elevation. We'll make it a tiny bit colder. So we'll do that. Okay, so in the summer, it looks like we do have a few ice-free spots, which is nice. Down here is ice-free. I don't know how there is snow filling in here in the summer, but that's above my pay grade. Like I explained earlier, glaciers are created from layers upon layers of snow that don't melt in the summer. Terra firma simulates it in the exact same way. So as more snow falls, an ice sheet is slowly going to cover this terrain. That ice sheet will flow like water and begin sculpting the bedrock underneath it, just like it does in real life. I'm gonna keep running it at normal speed and 100 times erosion speed. I find that if you go really fast, it looks really cool, but it doesn't do a good job of realistically simulating the geology. There's just too much going on. So to get realistic terrain, I've found that doing it a little bit slower for longer is a lot better. It's like cooking onions, low and slow. I wish there was like a 50 times speed, but 100 works for now. So we're gonna just leave this running for a little bit, and I'll be back in a couple thousand years. We are so back. All right, so what you just saw was about 2 hours worth of footage and 6,160 years of in-game time. Things are looking pretty good here, and you can probably already see exactly how these pyramidal shapes are formed. So in the west, we have our little ocean outlet here. In the southern part of the map, we have kind of this long mountain chain. And then in the northern part of the map, we have this smaller mountain chain that's mostly underneath the ice. There's kind of like two major glacial paths. There's this one in the north, which sort of does like a hairpin turn around the mountain and then flows out towards the sea. And then there's another one in the south, which runs on the southern side of this big mountain spine, and also does a little bit of a hairpin turn and runs down towards the sea. And you can actually see pretty well the like glacial flow that we were looking at in Antarctica. At like the sides of these mountains, you can see the ice coming down and joining together into these huge like rivers. And as it does that, it's creating sort of the spines and faces that we noticed in the other glacial landscapes in real life. This big mountain range probably being the most striking, which is a pretty spectacular ridge, but that one was a spine to begin with. So you can see that even if we look over at these smaller, more rounded hills, you're starting to get sort of this spine shape. But what I think I'd like to do is I'm going to let this run a little bit more, and I'm going to start to increase the global temperature a tiny bit, so we start to get a little bit of change. I want a little bit of water to start running, the glaciers to maybe recede a little bit and start scouring in other places. Can I edit the global average? Awesome. So I can just take up the whole temperature by a little bit, and maybe I'll even come back and do that again in the not too distant future. But for now, we're gonna just let that run, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, so we're nearing 10,000 years now. Time flies when you're having fun, really. And things are looking pretty nice. It seems our slight temperature increase has changed the terrain a little bit. You can really start to see some of these glacier rivers kind of starting to form. It's warm enough now that in the warmer areas, the ice sheet itself has disappeared, and so instead you get these big glacial lobes that push forward in the winter and recede a little bit during the summer. I'm a big glacial geology nerd, as you guys know, and I would say about 50% of the total requests that I would love to see implemented in this game are glacial geology related. We want moraines, give me moraines. But either way, this is looking really nice. We have this great kind of ridge developing in the middle here with these two glaciers coming down around either side. All right, so I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give it a tiny bit more time, toss it back in the oven for another 6,000 years, it'll be right as rain. I'm gonna turn up the temperature a tiny bit as well. Tiny bit extra, perfect. That's a pretty significant increase. This is also a very good example of how a very small increase in the temperature has a very big effect. He did a great job of making that very realistic. Enjoy this time lapse, and then we will check in on the finished product, hopefully. What's up, everyone? I am back again. I just did my little update here, but my microphone was dead, and I didn't notice. Whose idea it was to put a battery in a microphone, I couldn't tell you. We will continue adding batteries and software updates to things until you need a software update to take a fucking piss. Sorry, you cannot take a piss because the fucking toilet roll is out of battery. I did just have a lovely 2 hours building a garden bed, however, 3 garden beds that is, which was wonderful. And we are now at about 15,000 years into our simulation here. That is an awful lot of garden beds. Someone do the math on that. What is it? If it's 3 garden beds per 2 hours, 14,570 some odd years. It's an awful lot of garden beds. Anyway, in light of my mic dying, I just recorded a whole little update on this, so I'm gonna do it in voiceover because I'm tired. All right, so not all that much has changed since our last simulation, but one of the things that you can see is because it has gotten warmer, the glaciers have been melting, which has carried a sediment load, which has actually filled in some of the bay. Similarly, the melting of these glaciers has actually made them carve a little bit more efficiently. You can see here that as the end of the glacier melts, the glacier itself sort of moves a little bit faster and carves out these canyons. What we're looking at here is pretty much the exact same geologic process that formed Franconia Notch that we just looked at a minute ago. But as this erosion has continued, you can really see all these ridges and faces starting to form. They look a little bit different, obviously, because they're in a video game, but I mean, they are fundamentally the exact same thing. Like this small mountain here next to the main range is even starting to develop some kind of pyramid shapes. You can also switch to a topographic mode, which kind of gives this a whole new perspective. On one hand, you can see the ridges and faces really well, but you can also see that this simulation struggles a bit with erosion in places where the glaciers are really deep. And the glacial erosion is mostly taking place in the areas where it's either running down a steep slope or, you know, melting off at the end. At this point, I figured out that you can turn into a bird, which is kind of cool. I mean, I'd figured this out before, but I forgot you could do it, and then I accidentally clicked it, and I thought I was losing my mind. I also learned that you can crash as a bird. You immediately come back. I wish real birds could do this. But either way, the topo map allows you to see really effectively the places where the ice is actually moving and has created these ridges. And if we look at this other little mountain, you can see it's developing many of the same features that the pyramidal mountain in Antarctica has. The sort of isolated peak with all these different ridges and faces. All in all, this simulation is actually pretty damn good. It's obviously never gonna be a one-to-one of exactly how nature works, but I think by looking at this, you should have a pretty clear understanding of the way that this sort of feature is formed. All right, because I'm a crazy person, I think I'm going to run this simulation a little bit more. I keep thinking, oh no, I'm really, this is gonna take up so much time, but I realize these time lapses are probably fucking instantaneous for you guys. And this section is probably the shortest part of this video. So you guys can probably handle another time lapse. So enjoy this, and we're gonna see what happens. It is now almost 20,000 years since the start of our stimulation. And like anyone would after 20,000 years of stimulation, things are starting to look a little different. All right, so I messed with the temperature a little bit throughout that, as you guys probably saw. So we have now melted off most of kind of the lower lying glaciers, really only leaving the ice in the upper elevations. But it's actually done a great job of sort of exposing the map here. I'm gonna get it to summer real quick. There we are. Oh yeah, this looks really nice. Okay, so a couple things I want to focus on. Firstly, we got to have a look at this mountain over here. And now that the ice has melted from around the base of it, you can really see how the actual shape of the mountain looks underneath the ice. This ridge would honestly be a little bit of a better example if it had a little bit more of a varied ridge when it started eroding, so it actually turned into more peaks. It kind of just turned into one giant spine, but you can still see sort of these pyramidal shapes forming the entire length of it. I think that looking at this and those last couple time lapses, you probably have a pretty good vision for how something like this is possible, which, as if there was any mystery left to this thing, this should be really the nail in the coffin. So I think it's finally time to go back into the studio and put all of this together. And, you know, maybe just for shits and giggles, I can destroy this map with a giant volcano. You guys would like that, wouldn't you? Of course you'd like that. All right, we got ourselves a volcano. We got some felsic lava, so it'll grow upwards. It'll last for a cool 50,000 years. And we got high lava flow and an extreme caldera. What more do you need? Action. I'll see you guys in the studio. You can beat a horse to water, but you can't look a chicken in the mouth before it hatches.